I've got a question. What do you think is right, but most people would disagree with? This is a useful question because it shows where we are thinking contrarian. Most investment returns are made when we are right and most others are wrong. Now this video is about Solana. Solana is currently crashing. Most people think that Solana is dead. That it's a bad idea to buy Solana. But is this just a popular trade, or does it make sense to go contrarian here? We're going to look at the data most people aren't considering. We're going to look at usage. We're going to look at indicators. We're trying to figure out what historically worked well to time Solana. Now what we've got over here, that's the Solana price with the 200-day simple moving average. A very common moving average and one of many ways to potentially time Solana. We want to go long when we are above. We want to go short when we are below. But we can also measure the distance from that moving average. So the dotted horizontal line, that's when we are crossing the moving average. And whenever we have rallied very quickly, we've got a lot of distance from that moving average. When we have crashed a lot, we are also far away from that moving average. What's interesting here, we can see that over time, both the rallies in Solana tend to slow down, but also the crashes, they tend to be not as severe anymore. Solana's price development becomes a bit more predictable. It becomes less volatile. It's closer and closer to the moving average. Currently, that moving average is going down. And so even if nothing happens with the price, we automatically just come closer to the SMA. Now this is for the 200-day simple moving average. But we could also use the 100-day. And the picture looks very similar. Again, Solana tends to move less and less violently. It tends to mature to a degree. Here's the same for the 50-day simple moving average, and it shows it just with even more data points. Every single high tends to be not as great as the one prior, and every crash tends to be not as bad. Now we've got many more data points for the 50-day versus, say, the 200-day simple moving average. So probably this is the better measure. But there's something interesting about this chart. Have a look again at this horizontal line. So whenever we are above the horizontal line, the price is above the moving average. Have a look at how this top resistance line here is very quickly going to cross the horizontal line. Now there's only two ways to resolve this. Either Solana will stay below the 50-day simple moving average forever, or we are going to break out and suddenly there's a surprise rally in Solana. Right now it does very much look like there isn't that much additional gain to be made to buy Solana. Once we get close to the 50-day SMA, we might very soon turn around again. And right now that moving average is going down. And the resistance that's very hard to overcome is at only $82. Now that's a very scary analysis because the price development of Solana becomes more and more stable. We have less volatility, less movement to the upside and the downside. But what gets cut more is the movement to the upside, not necessarily to the downside. The downside long term is more stable. There is more area below the horizontal line, below that 50-day simple moving average than there is above. And by the end of the year, that line is going to cross. That's the potential death of Solana, just according, of course, to this analysis. No model is perfect, but some are useful. And I find it interesting how this volatility very consistently is declining over all of those years. Now let's measure Solana's price development from the prior all-time high. As in, how much did it historically drop from the all-time high before turning around? At what point does the risk versus reward become favorable to go contrarian, to actually buy the dip when most people gave up? Again, at the top, we've got the Solana price. At the bottom, we now see how much did that price fall from the all-time high. And the drop in 2022 was brutal. Solana fell 96% from its all-time high. That was from $250 down to $10. Then came the recovery, but where are we right now? We are at 75%, so nowhere near the 95-96% mark. Now in the end, the fundamental question in investing always is, what's the best opportunity? Because we have to invest in something. Fiat currency over time goes down in value, so the US money supply grows by roughly 6.8% per annum, so we have to put it in something. And usually we also want to have some diversification, right? We own some property, we own some stocks, we own some precious metals, and maybe some crypto. And then the big question is, within that crypto allocation, is Solana a good alternative relative to the rest? To answer that question, we can have a look at the Solana dominance. How much of the entire crypto market is currently in Solana? That's this chart over here. Solana tended to be a very good investment. Even over the last 5 years, it tended to still outperform. However, over the last 1.5 years, not so much. Let's have a look at the same analysis, the drop from the all-time high. This time not in the US dollar chart, but in the dominance chart. During the bear market, Solana tended to underperform the rest of the crypto market by roughly 80%. It's truly a levered play on crypto. When crypto goes down, Solana goes down much more, up to 80% more. The interesting thing is that that level, 75 to 80%, used to be the turnaround point several times for Solana's history. Currently, again, we are not at 75 to 80%. Currently, we are only at 55%. So that would also indicate that it's quite dangerous to make that contrarian play right now. Clearly, Solana's momentum is not that great. And given that the platform still is mainly used for meme coin trading and the risk on capital is rather interested in artificial intelligence stocks right now, I don't see where the adoption or the outperformance should come from right now. Here is the Solana price relative to the others market cap. The others market cap is all of the altcoins that are not in the top 10. So how is Solana doing as an altcoin? Again, during the bear market, it's doing very, very poorly. During a bull market, it tends to outperform. Currently, we are in a bear market, and it's very hard to make the case to already buy right now, even if we work with the assumption that Solana long-term outperforms the smaller altcoins. There is no obvious support at the current price level. Solana could easily underperform the rest of the altcoin market by another 40, potentially even 55%. Now, I'm a fan of numbers. I like to establish trading rules to follow. So instead of just looking at the situation day in and day out and follow the news, I just look at what kind of approaches used to work in the past, and then I apply those approaches in the future. One of my favorite approaches is using golden crosses and death crosses. So that's when a shorter term moving average crosses a longer term moving average. That's a golden cross, and vice versa. When the shorter term goes below the longer term, that's a death cross. I have backtested all kinds of moving average combinations. And this year, that's the best combination. It's the 14-day and 31-day simple moving average. And this is how well that strategy worked over time. Very consistent gains, much better compared to just buying and holding Solana. Every single year, that approach made money. Now here's how much that trading rule actually outperformed. Buying and holding Solana would have given us 113% per annum. Following the 14 versus 31-day simple moving average gave us almost 400% per annum. The maximum drawdown is not 96% anymore, it's only 80%. That is less risk compared to buying and holding Bitcoin. And so here is where we are right now with that strategy. The 14-day SMA and the 31-day SMA. We got our death cross on the 25th of May and subsequently Solana crashed. Now this approach is much more short-term compared to the charts we looked at before. Still, if I wanted to buy Solana, which I don't, but if I wanted to find an entry point for Solana, I would at least wait for the golden cross. At least the current short-term momentum should be bullish. At least we should be seeing the 14-day SMA going above the 31-day SMA. That's when we tend to see at least temporary rallies. But we are very far away from that. We are currently shorting Solana. And why am I saying we? Because there is a trend following capital pool for Solana. So we are following exactly that trading strategy since March of this year. The 14 and 31-day simple moving average. The outperformance versus buying and holding is 176% per annum. So that's the additional performance versus just buying and holding. And so far, after 3 months, we have even outdone that. As in, Solana fell by 29%, we fell by only 2.4%. So measured in Solana, we now have 1.37 SOL. So that's the outperformance versus just buying and holding. And annualized, because we haven't yet even seen 3 months of data, that's 350%. 54% per annum. So currently we are even above target. Our target is 176% per annum. That's the backtest. And currently we have almost double of that. And so there are trend followers for Ethereum as well. Here the backtest gave us 210% outperformance. We are already at more than 1000% annualized. So that started at the beginning of the year. We made 35% gains while Ethereum lost 50%. So 1 ETH turned into 2.6 ETH, and that's then annualized more than 1000. This number will definitely come down. But if long term we are reaching the 200% per annum, that's still very much a useful approach. And here we've got Bitcoin. With Bitcoin, the backtest gave us 115%. We are currently at 183%. And here is that backtesting chart. We have been able to get around this entire crypto crash. We have preserved all of our capital simply because of the backtests we run, because of the trading rules that we are establishing. And so that's where I believe it really makes sense to be contrarian. It's not necessarily to do always the opposite of what most other people do. It's rather to find approaches that most others don't find. There is a dedicated website on the topic. It's over here, copy trading. It's linked down below on the Bitcoin strategy website. Just click on copy trading and then you will find a real-time update of that strategy. So you can always click on performance chart and you will see where we are now today. This is always live. There's nothing cherry picked here. And so feel free to join as well. So that's all explained in the premium membership of this channel. It's currently $125 per month. There's also a 7-day money back guarantee. So in case you don't like premium for whatever reason, just message me within the first 7 days and I'll refund you. No questions asked. Most of the time, the masses are right. So it's actually risky to do the opposite of what most others do. When we do the opposite and we are right though, that's when we get the outsized return. So at some point, it doesn't make sense to buy Solana again. That is unfortunately not right now, in my opinion. The data says that the momentum is still intact and that during prior bear markets, Solana went down much, much more. Not just in US dollars, but relative to the rest of crypto as well. If it's your first time here, feel free to subscribe. I publish here regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you next time here on YouTube or see you on Premium. Link to that pops up here on the screen as well. See you next time. Cheers.